Hello, Embody. We are going to be talking about First Samuel chapter 24. You have 5 minutes to grab your Bibles and join us. I'm going to explain to you a poop joke. Poop joke? No, it's not a joke. But I'll tell you a Bible connection to defecating. So that'll be fun. Please join. I am here, and I am on my own until Yoav has a very specific point to make, in which case then he'll jump on to tell me what's what. That is how it rolls. Hello, Don. Hello, Yoav. We're going to be in a chapter of First Samuel, which is very good. I mean, they're all very good, but this one, there's a bit of scandal in it twice. There's the payoff of a bunch of different stories, and there's us trying to figure out how exactly euphemisms work. So we're in 1 Samuel chapter 24. And I don't know if Cassandra is going to be around. This probably means that Grim is streaming somewhere. But you know what? If I have to, I'll do this one all on my own. If you have never encountered this story spoken of in how the Hebrew refers to it, you probably... The Nameless is streaming. Oh, is that right? Is that why? Friday morning Nameless? Okay. That's fine. That's fine. I actually don't even have Cassandra's anyway, I have limited ways of contacting everyone. This doesn't matter. We're just going to do it. We're just going to do this section. What are those wacky Israelites up to next time? Cassandra, the representative of the women, is here.
I know. So sorry for being late.
You saw the video, right? That Chad has posted the news program, which you helped?
Yes. Yeah. The worldly news.
Yes. Yes. Cassandra, an excellent representation of the women in the corner, giving us insight in their thoughts. Okay, let's get into this one. I'm excited. Go ahead, Cassandra.
Okay. When Saul returned from following the Philistines, he was told, "Behold, David is in the wilderness of En-gedi." Then Saul took 3,000 chosen men out of all Israel and went to seek David and his men in front of the Wild Goats Rocks. And he came to the sheepfolds by the way, where there was a cave, and Saul went in to relieve himself. Now David and his men were sitting in the innermost parts of the cave. And the men of David said to him, "Here's the day of which the Lord said to you, Behold, I will give your enemy into your hand, and you shall do to him as it shall seem good to you."
Okay, let's pause. David... Let's pause a second. Talk about that. So there's even like a little note. Oh, I clicked the note. Hebrew, cover his feet. So we've had these conversations before that genitals and feet are connected in biblical. It's like to say a member, or to coyly say a body part, if you know what I mean. And in the ancient world, you wore these robes. So there's a couple of options. Number one, when you use the toilet, if you had an undergarment, that undergarment is at your feet, would be covering it. The other option is you have a robe, you hike it up, and you hold all of the excess of the robe in front of you, covering your feet, leaving your butt uncovered to go. So it literally says to relieve it, like to cover his feet. So like if you have a children's Bible and they do this story, he's sometimes taking a little nap in there, or he's taking a little break in a cave. He just needs some alone time. But it almost certainly is a relieving himself. But you can imagine using the bathroom is a situation of humiliation, of uncovering, and a situation where he is extremely vulnerable. Right? It's this scene happens in Pulp Fiction, where Bruce Willis shows up somewhere, and his assassin is on the toilet. And that puts Bruce Willis in a much better situation than the guy who's on the toilet. The being on the toilet is extreme vulnerability. Does that all make sense, Cassandra? Or
yeah, no, it definitely does. I think about how this was used in other stories too, kind of, because it's been a while, but I remember in was it Gulliver's Travels? There's like a lot of talk about when he was taken in by the Lilliputians. He spent a fair amount of time talking about like how he relieved himself in wear because he was a giant. And I think it's supposed to maybe like have something similar where it's like this part of society or yourself that you don't really talk about because it's like, I don't know. I guess it's a sensitive thing. It's not something you talk about. It's not conversation.
I didn't know that part. Oh, also Game of Thrones.
Yeah, I think there's been a couple of things. I remember reading there was like a news thing where this guy was hiding from the police, and I guess he was gassy, and the cop heard him where he was hiding, and then he got caught.
Yeah. Oh, the level of embarrassment. There is, I think, supposed to be some humiliation where it's like you're so in control of your life, but you're not fully in control of your life. There's certain things that no matter how disciplined you are, you're still gonna have to do, and is a situation of vulnerability.
Yeah,
that's what's happening here.
Yeah, or like they go to the doctors and you have to give samples and stuff like that because they have to take everything from you and test it.
Right. Yeah. There's a Pete Holmes bit. It's all about the height of technology, about how Elon Musk, no matter what he's invented, he still has to like poop in a bowl of water. That's the height of technology. There's no can't tell. Yeah, that doesn't anyway. But I think that's important for here because he is the king. He is fully in control, but there's still things which he can't control. And so he wants a little bit of privacy. So while they're on the hunt for David, this is also like a coin flip, right? We talked about this, about what are the odds? And that's what everyone else says. David is in the cave where Saul goes in alone to take a poop. And so the men said to him, here is the day of which the Lord said to you, behold, I will give your enemy into your hands, and you shall do to him as it shall seem good to you. What is this a reference to?
As it shall seem good to you. I mean, it makes me think back in Judges because that's kind of was repeated. What was good in their own eyes, I guess.
Yeah. So I think because David is going to act mercifully, and I believe that little reference is to let us know that the people who want Saul dead are they're pushing it. They're pushing. They want what they want as good. Yeah, very interesting. Okay, let's actually go from verse 4. So keep reading, read again verse 4, and we'll continue this section.
Okay. And the men of David said to him, here's the day of which the Lord said to you, behold, I will give your enemy into your hand, and you shall do to him as it shall seem good to you. Then David arose and stealthily cut off a corner of Saul's robe. And afterward David's heart struck him because he had cut off a corner of Saul's robe. He said to his men, the Lord forbid that I should do this thing to my Lord, the Lord's anointed, to put out my hand against him, seeing he is the Lord's anointed. So David persuaded his men with these words and did not permit them to attack Saul. And Saul rose up and left the cave and went on his way.
Okay, let's pause there. So this becomes a metaphor used over and over again, where when the kingdom is divided, to symbolize the kingdom being divided, a prophetic figure takes a cloak and cuts it into 12 pieces. So that cutting of the pieces is like each piece is a piece of the nation, right? So this idea that David is taking a piece of his cloak. But you'll remember that when Saul is rejected, Saul grabs onto Samuel's cloak and rips the corner of his cloak. And Samuel says to Saul, just like that, the kingdom will be ripped from you. So the one who rips Saul's garment is the one who will rip the kingdom from him as well. So it's all kind of coming together in this moment that when Saul will realize it, just think of how he will connect it to that moment to Samuel and how this is definitely you've lost everything. Definitely it's all going to be gone.
Right. It says that David's heart struck him after he cut off the corner.
Yeah.
Which I thought was weird because it seems like he cut off the corner. At least I thought in my mind, because he always plans to not kill him, but just to show him that he could have. But then that makes it look like it's an afterthought of cutting off the corner of his robe.
Yes. Now, I believe it was Yosef who put this idea in my mind, or it may have been Chezi, that in Jewish tradition, it was actually wrong for him to cut the corner of the garment. That's why he feels bad. And they would connect this to at the beginning of Kings, David as an old man can't get warm. And it says no matter how many garments he put on, he couldn't get warm. And they would connect this with it, saying he disrespected even the king's clothes, right? He is within this section describing himself as Saul's servant. Yet if your servant ripped off your pocket on like a dress shirt, just went, right? You'd say, well, then you're fired, right? So there's conversation within Judaism as to whether or not it's okay that he does this.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, I was wondering what he was thinking then when he first does it.
Right. Yeah, I don't know. And this chapter on its own seems to be on David's side, in my opinion. But I don't know, especially with this idea that his heart struck him. He does feel bad about it. It may also be because it's emphasizing the fact he takes no pleasure in Saul's death, right? Anything offensive that he does to Saul, he takes no pleasure in it. Which kind of, I mean, it's one of the things that they want on body cam footage, right? When a police officer kills someone, you want them to feel bad about it and not be too excited to shoot the guy. You want him to run away and to say, please don't, please stop, please, right?
Right. And then I had a question about the way they translate the Lord. Because there's like when he's talking about God and then when he's talking about Saul. Are those different words in Hebrew?
Yeah. So in the Greek translation, they would like you would see this Lord combination. Whenever you see all capitals in your English translation, this is to say that the divine name is being used. So if ever you hear me, Cassandra, say Hashem, Hashem means the name, which in Judaism they will often use instead of actually saying the name of God. But another way of avoiding saying the name of God is you say Adonai, which means Lord. So if you hear the Shema said in Hebrew, you don't say the divine name, which is Yud, Hey, Vav, and then Hey. which even the way that I just said it, where I didn't say all the letters in a row, is sometimes done within Jewish context to not be offensive. It will say Adonai, the word for Lord, instead of saying God's name over and over again. If this is all connecting. So it would be the name of God for so I'm just going to say, I don't know, it would be so much easier if I just did not care about offending people and just used the divine name. But it would be like, so this is God's name. So the name forbid that I should do this thing to my master. The name's anointed, to put out my hand against him, seeing he is God's anointed, right? I'll just do it in that way. So it wouldn't, like in the English, it looks like the word is the same over and over again, but it's emphasizing that he is Saul's, like that Saul is his master, and that God has anointed him. He is emphasizing, like, look at this, more than once, saying this is God's anointed. And I think it's other people who have emphasized in the corner, if you are the anointed of the Lord, which David is, and you set a precedent for it's okay to disrespect the anointed of the Lord, what does that mean for you later on?
Right.
Is that all connecting?
Mm-hmm.
And then Michael, any thoughts from you, sir?
No, not yet.
Okay. Yosef is connecting this with Ehud, who you will remember goes in to relieve himself and is killed. And that was a bad king, you will remember.
Yeah.
And Yosef is saying that there's a midrash of Pharaoh going to the bathroom alone by the Nile. Interesting.
Right.
Yoav, what do you got to say?
A second, I'm struggling with.
Oh, okay. I added him. Sorry.
Yeah.
Yoav,
Yeah.
when you didn't say anything for a couple of seconds, I got worried.
No. The missiles have not struck me yet.
Okay.
I'm going to get into a disagreement with Yosef and I guess with everybody else who ever read this chapter. I guess that,
Wonderful.
I tend to do this often. I cannot accept it being a cave. Because think about it, a king, will it need to, I mean, it says a cave by the...
Engedi. By
no,
Engedi.
Gedrot Atzon, the fences where they put the cattle. There's a corral where they put the cattle, and next to it there is a cave, and he goes into the cave, and he's a king. I mean, he can have people sort of arranging some stuff around him. Some people can construct something for him. He doesn't need to go along into a cave. And then David and his people are there at the edge of the cave, and they're speaking. I mean, should we kill him? Should we not kill him? Now it's a cave. Even if as much as whisper, it echoes all around the cave, and Saul hears it in an instant and calls somebody for help or gets out of there. It doesn't make sense unless it's not a clearing. Okay, now Yosef is maybe agreeing with me.
No, he's saying a cave is maximal privacy, much more than a field or a cave. So the Aura cave is
okay. No, I'm not agreeing.
Yeah. He's still disagreeing. And Engedi does have cave systems all next to it. Right? Like if you're looking at images of Engedi.
Well, you put your cattle in a flat, you don't go up the mountain to put your cattle there. Well, I don't know at what height En-Gedi was. The Dead Sea was the water level was much higher there. So I don't really know where was the location of En-Gedi there. Then at the point, but the whole story doesn't make sense to me unless it's not a cave, unless the word Me'ara has another meaning. And I'm struggling to find another meaning because it's extremely unorthodox, but Ya'ar is a forest. And I think it's a clearing of, I mean, if you put you clear a bit of the shrubbery and the trees and to make a corral for the goats. So it's more like a clearing, I think. But okay, these are my personal view.
Okay.
It just doesn't make to me if it's a cave. The whole story doesn't make sense to me if it's a cave.
If it's a clearing, though, how did he not see them? I mean, where were they hiding then? And then he
At the edge of it, if it's a clearing of some trees. So there were.
Well, in some depictions that I've seen as well, it's that it's a cave system, and they see Saul go in, and he'll sometimes even like leave his robe at the entrance of the cave, and David just kind of goes in and cuts just the edge.
So he goes stealthily. I mean, he needs to cut his coat, so he needs to crawl stealthily in a cave and without making any noise. And any noise in the cave, you will hear it very well. Just sorry.
No, it's all right. It's all right. It's especially okay because we feel entirely comfortable with disagreeing with you.
Well, if there was water running in the cave, then it could be noisy in there, and you might not hear unless you were close to somebody. But I don't know. It's so hard because I know, most people tend to imagine that the geography and everything is like the same as it is today, but it seems like there's many indications that it was. Well, I think we know it was much more heavily forested. The climate was probably somewhat different than it is now. And so our perception of, the scenery is probably is wrong a lot of the time if we're not
right
doing some research to try to figure that stuff out.
Yeah, and the example of the Salt Sea is a very good one because we can see that the Salt Sea was still a salt sea when it was much larger, right? But now it is considerably saltier than it was even 50 years ago, right? It is still referred to in the biblical text as the Salt Sea. So we know it was not, it wasn't an oasis, but it wasn't as bad as it is now. Like there's, all kinds of things happening.
Okay, I just need to put Yon God's mind to rest. The Dead Sea Scrolls are not a hoax. First, they were not found exactly there. They were somewhere quite far away. And second, the caves, if the caves were on a lowland, when you can reach them, then the scrolls would not have been kept there. The very fact that the scrolls were hidden in those caves for thousands of years, it means they're very hard to reach. I mean, it wasn't any cave like that.
Yeah.
It was a cave sort of wide enough, even for some goats to live there. Sometimes they put some goats in a cave. I just don't know of such a cave in that neighborhood. Maybe there was.
Okay, we're going to go back. I think we're going to go back to the text to kind of move on. So but you don't disagree that he's pooping. You agree that the king is pooping. And I think that what was being said by Dawn is really, really good. How there's a tradition of royalty refusing to let their lessers see them doing certain things, right? One of the presidents, actually multiple presidents, have actually been in wheelchairs, and the press would not take pictures of them using wheelchairs. There's one where it's much more famous, but a less famous one, which I think is even more important, is JFK. JFK actually had incredible health problems and was in many situations, like as soon as he did these speeches where he was standing looking very powerful and strong, he was put in a wheelchair and like put off somewhere else. Like he experienced a lot of difficulty with his body, but you don't want to desecrate the leader in this way. But here is a story definitely of leader desecration.
Okay, so do I agree about what he was doing there?
Yeah.
Not disagreeing, but I'm looking at the word. The word is lehasech, and it can be from masach, which is a curtain. So sort of curtaining his legs or covering his legs. Or it could be from nesech, which means he was washing his legs. Maybe anointing his legs with oil after a long march.
But the word can also mean genitals, can it not?
Which?
The word for feet.
No, okay. Raglav, definitely legs. I mean, it could be, an indirect way of describing what you otherwise don't want to describe, but Raglav is definitely his feet, but it was.
I was thinking, yeah.
He was covering his legs because when you kneel down, then you draw your coat around and it covers your leg. So it is okay. The action is covering your leg, whatever you're doing. But my interpretation, lasechet raglav, is to anoint his feet or to wash his feet. Could be. I just can go either way. The same principle. It doesn't change anything from the story.
Yeah, I was thinking of yad, which is sometimes used as genitals. Okay, this is without a doubt feet, but still could be a euphemism.
Could be. It's just the calves that bothers me, no, not the feet.
Okay, we're bringing this back. Cassandra, if you wouldn't mind, start in verse 7.
Okay. So David persuaded his men with these words and did not permit them to attack Saul. And Saul rose up and left the cave and went on his way. Afterward, David also arose and went out of the cave and called after Saul, "My lord the king." And when Saul looked behind him, David bowed with his face to the earth and paid homage. And David said to Saul, "Why do you listen to the words of men who say, 'Behold, David seeks your harm'? Behold, this day your eyes have seen how the Lord gave you today into my hands in the cave. And some told me to kill you, but I spared you. I said, I will not put out my hand against the Lord, for he is the Lord's anointed. See, my father, see the corner of your robe. See the corner of your robe in my hand, for by the fact that I cut off the corner of your robe and did not kill you, you may know and see that there is no wrong or treason in my hands. I have not sinned against you, though you hunt my life to take it. May the Lord judge between me and you. May the Lord avenge me against you, but my hand shall not be against you. As the proverb of the ancients say, out of the wicked comes wickedness, but my hand shall not be against you. And after whom has the king of Israel come out? After whom do you pursue? After a dead dog? After a flea? May the Lord therefore be judge and give sentence between me and you, and see to it and plead my cause and deliver me from your hand.
Okay, that's great. That's great. Notice the words that David uses. He refers to Saul as his father and refers to Saul as Lord over and over and over again, right? Really emphasizing, not only am I not against you, I am your servant. I'm your child. That kind of imagery all throughout. Anything else come forward? This chat lacked a map. No thoughts. Okay. So then we'll get to the response. Okay, we got Hezi here. Hezi, we're talking about Saul pooping and getting.
Hezi, I want to ask you a question that bothers me. This story, everybody keeps saying it's about a cave, but it doesn't make sense to me when it's a cave, because David and his men cannot be whispering to each other in the cave without it all echoing all around the cave, and Shaul getting to the fact that they were there. And David could not crawl all the way to Shaul in a cave without making a noise. Could me'ara possibly mean a clearing of a wood, a clearing in the woods?
Let's see if Hezi is going to be on your side.
Nobody will ever. But
yeah. Okay, if he comes, he says nope. And I like that nope is blocking your face right now. Nope. Okay, let's continue on with the text then. Also, there is a spider midrash, and they are in caves. Okay, cool.
Yes, there was never a spider in the forest, but okay, I give up.
Okay, Cassandra, continue reading for us, please.
As soon as David had finished speaking these words to Saul, Saul said, "Is this your voice, my son David?" And Saul lifted up his voice and wept. He said to David, "You are more righteous than I, for you have repaid me good, whereas I have repaid you evil."
Okay, pause. I'm immediately pause. I'm sorry. So calls David his son, right? So he's admitting that David is in fact his servant. The crying, which I think is related to the fact that this is, remember Samuel with the cutting the corner of the robe. So there's much to cry about here. But this line, what does this line remind me of? You are more righteous than I. That sentence is used elsewhere, specifically in the Torah. Nobody? Michael, who says that they are more righteous than I?
Everything's all robot-y. I have to get to a place with better service.
Okay. All right, I accept that. Judah and Tamar. Judah is completely convinced that he is in the right when he is about to burn Tamar alive. And she says, the one who owns these things, that's the one.
Yeah,
That's the one who has done this. Hi, Sandy.
I feel like you don't want. I'm super tired. You're talking about Judah and Tamar.
Yeah, see? Sandy was listening and she was becoming so infuriated.
Actually, I woke up halfway through it.
Okay. But this idea that Judah is actually in the wrong and that this is remembered in the Torah, surely she is more righteous than I. That is said by Judah, and right now Saul is saying it about himself to a descendant of Judah. You are more righteous than I. For you have repaid me good, whereas I have repaid you evil. And because he is here again, emphasizing what I was saying before, that there's a Jewish tradition that David is specifically punished for the cutting of the robe. I wouldn't say it says so directly in this chapter, though. And even the situation that he thinks is punishment, it doesn't say that it's specifically punishment for that. Okay, Cassandra, can you continue reading for us verse 18?
And you have declared this day how you have dealt with me, in that you did not kill me when the Lord put me into your hands. For if a man finds his enemy, will he let him go away safe? So may the Lord reward you with good for what you have done to me this day. And now, behold, I know that you shall surely be king, and that the kingdom of Israel shall be established in your hand. Swear to me, therefore, by the Lord, that you will not cut off my offspring after me, and that you will not destroy my name out of my father's house. And David swore this to Saul. Then Saul went home, but David and his men went up to the stronghold.
Oh, man. So David is still on the run, kind of. They make peace, but he doesn't go, okay, I'll be safe in your house again. There's only so much peace that has been made in this story.
Yeah, I mean, you could only throw your spear at someone so many times.
Yeah.
Like, this has kind of been an ongoing thing.
And Saul has apologized for doing that before, too. Remember the last time when he actually prophesied, is Saul also among the prophets? It was God directly, like he came to his senses again there. But now David won't trust him anymore. Can't do it. And now behold, now I know you shall surely be king, and that the kingdom of Israel shall be established in your hand. That's the bit that I was talking about. He sees him with the bit of his garment. Now I know for sure. It's definitely you. This is great, McMo, because that has multiple meaning. Because you're quite right. He got caught with his pants down. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. We hint to changing of the guards when he dresses David and puts on the armor to fight Goliath. Yeah, we talked about that in the David and Goliath story, where it refers to David sometimes as his armor bearer. So it's like he's the one who puts on the king's clothes, like coverings, but then he's cutting the bit. McMo, I'm on your side. I also don't believe Saul. But this is the thing, though. If you know someone who habitually makes the same mistake over and over again, they can be, they can feel bad about what they're doing without being repentant. So that's the real question.
It's almost like Pharaoh, where Pharaoh's like, yeah, okay, Moses, I'll let your people go. And, like, especially after the Passover. And then he still just changes his mind. And, like, Saul's, it's like he knows David's supposed to be king, but he wants to, like, force God to make it happen. Like, he's not willing to go along with the plan.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And the other thought I had was, so if he's having to go to the bathroom, like, urgently, like, he may be, like maybe he's sick. And, like, sometimes people do have this weird, like, clarity when they get sick, like, kind of like the thing that you were talking about in the stream this morning with Luke and PBK. It's like, oh, you're a little bit closer to death, and then you like puts things in perspective.
Well, and literally going into a cave, sorry, Yoav, going into a cave is also a symbol of death. It's used as an image of death, right? Of going into the earth. Yeah.
It's not only the cave. I mean, the young Levite said they could see him. He could not see them. I agree to that, but my point was not about sight, it was about sound. But okay, but the rest of the story. So Saul gets out of the cave and he starts walking. And he's walking quite a few paces. And then David comes out of the cave and they're having this exchange of words between them. So Saul's people are far away. Saul had to go out of the camp, walk quite a long way into the cave. I mean, Jonathan always has his boy with him. We always have Jonathan with his boys, with this boy. I cannot perceive Saul not having some 3 men. It's out there. I mean, there are bad things going out there there are dangers in the desert. There'll be Amalekite, there could be tigers, there could be wolves. There would be some 3 people walking with him all the way to the cave. I mean, keeping the respectable dam, let's say 10 paces from the cave. And then he comes back and he joins his people. But now we have this exchange of words with nobody else around. I have a feeling that we are not understanding the story, but I will shut up now.
Okay. Well, maybe we need to return to that. Before we do, I do want to say something about the point that Michael was making. The language which is used that says God hardened the heart of Pharaoh, the word in Hebrew literally means to strengthen, to make strong, right? Which is something which hardens something, right? It's harder, it's stronger. But related to that idea that we were talking about before about death, you can see the moments that Pharaoh gives in and repents as a moment of weakness, right? Like God strengthens his heart, makes him more strong, actually makes him a lot more stubborn, right? To have the kind of strength, because you want a coward to be less than, but you like to give up on that aspect, but you want a brave person to increase, right? So Saul, we might interpret this as a moment of weakness, not as a moment of strength. It's like where he gives up on himself in a positive way, as opposed to becoming stronger. Yoav, I'm not going to deny that it's a weird story, by the way. Yeah, go ahead, Sandy.
Well, Yoav's question, it makes me think of the current election and all of the arguments I'm hearing in various Discord servers today about different ways that different instances of right and wrong and ways that we interact with each other in those instances. Some of them weren't talking directly to that particular event, but they were talking about houses and how you can lose your house to somebody, actually. Like, so basically talking about evil. And so David spares Saul's life. Like, Saul has acted towards him not just less justly, but as a person would who has evil intent towards another. So I'm looking it up, and I don't even know if this is just AI, but I'm curious about this because the explanation given in this quick little search is the fact that he refrains from taking his own revenge or justice on Saul for his actions against him. and the significance being that he's waiting on God's timing, God's justice. That it's significant that whatever outcome there is has to be directed by God's hand and not our own.
Yeah.
Is that anywhere in what you saw in this story, or am I just waking from sleep?
I think you're quite right, Sandy, because this does come up later, where David has opportunity and reason to put certain people to death, but he won't do it during his reign, because if he does, it'll be terrible politically, right? You get this idea where if you normalize the idea of immediately removing your opponent, then the moment you're out of power, you've given people you've consented to them fully removing you. Yeah. This is a very funny comment.
Okay, in the spirit of yes and, the only one who sort of partially agree with me is McMosav, and he was first describing as an assassination attempt, and he says that David was in charge of the Secret Service. I don't think David was. I think Avner Ben Ner was. So I'm putting a questions to the learned people around here. What was the sin of Avner Ben Ner? I mean, Avner Ben Ner must have done something wrong. Everybody in the Bible has. Young Levite, bear with me. There should have been people around, not in the cave, outside the cave, 10 paces from the cave. There should have been somebody from the Secret Service around, okay? And there were the people of Avner Ben Ner. My question is, why was not the Secret Service around? Do you know of any other blame that is attached to Avner Ben Ner? That is the question. But
Yeah, I'm not sure.
I don't know. I could imagine that he brought men with him, but then made them wait a certain distance away while he actually went to the bathroom.
Like looking at some of the geography bits, there are bits of pools and waterfalls and stuff in this area. And going with what Yoav said before, it could be that he's stripped naked and is bathing, right? That he's gone. And if there's these waterfalls and stuff like that, that would create a kind of, I've been in caves that have waterfalls and you're not hearing anything, right? Like that's, I understand the issues with some of the bits around it, where it's how accidental is it? Like, it's important to know that, like, I've seen videos of people walking and they're on their phone and they don't notice that there's a bear, like a black bear. I watched this one video of a guy bumps into a bear because he's on his phone, right? That we can be that much distracted. Or it's a field. Whichever one you prefer, Yoav, it's fine.
I caught a seagull at Niagara Falls because it couldn't hear me sneaking up on it. That was kind of fun.
What did you do with it? What did you do?
Held it and then let it go. I mean, I don't know. I was like 14 or something. It was really loud, though.
Do you know anything about that, Yoav, that you brought it up or were asking it?
sorry, what was the question?
Well, you brought it up. I'm just curious. Was there anything that further that you knew about it? Why you're pointing?
He just doesn't feel it matches up. It doesn't make sense to him. It's allowed to not make sense to him. What's going on?
Okay, Avner switches sides in the end. Maybe he was differing between sides earlier. I'm trying to just find the holes, finds the bit of the story that I don't understand or that don't make sense, and try to divine meaning from them. Okay, but
well, and Abner is such an interesting person. So who Yoav is referring to is Abner, sometimes referred to as the son of Ner.
Yeah, I know. I'm looking it up. I was just curious.
He is the opposite of Joab. Yoav is on David's side, where the second in command for David is a great military leader, but a bad dude. But the second in command on Saul's side, Abner, is a really good guy. I like I like Abner a lot, but he's still on the wrong side. And there is this issue that comes up over and over again later on in the text. If David kills Saul, then Judah will be at war with Benjamin. Even if David is going to take over Saul's position, he doesn't want to be an enemy to Saul because then he loses one of the tribes of Israel.
I would extend it. I keep referring to Saul as a peasant. And David is a shepherd. I think that the antagonism between the tribes is also the age-old antagonism between the farmers and the shepherds.
Yeah, it is interesting as well that, as you were saying, the geography, it specifies the goat path that it's near, where is it? The Wild Goats Rock, and David is a shepherd. Last thing I wanted to emphasize before I do check in with people. The last thing that Saul did for him to be rejected is that he spared a king. That is the enemy king is spared by Saul, and God is like, why did you do that? Right? The Ammonites, Agag. So why did you spare him? I told you to kill him. And here, David is sparing the enemy king. So there's so many parallels between David and Saul, but the text likes Saul when it doesn't like Saul. Yeah. Okay, let me do a check-in. Cassandra, are there any other thoughts that you've had about this text or any of the things that we have spoken of?
Well, what you said just now made me think of, I forget what chapter it was in, when Saul kills the priest and all of his family, which made me think of when he was supposed to kill, was it the Ammonites, all of them, all the animals and everything, and he didn't. So that's another interesting parallel in which David, I guess, succeeds in a similar way where Saul fails.
Yeah.
So yeah, a lot of fun parallels to play with. Other than that, nothing much.
Okay, awesome. Mikhail.
I don't know. I mean, I'm curious to go home and look at it more closely and see about what the concerns Yoav's bringing up, because I agree that the story should make sense, and those details, if the whole thing doesn't fit together, there might be something there. So So I don't know. I don't have a profound thought, but
Yeah, and there's two different parts to that, because number one, we know that people like Jonathan are quote unquote on Saul's side, but are actually on David's side. But then, I'm just gonna leave it there. There's also the situation where God is making this unnatural. Like it's not supposed to be something that fully makes sense because it's interpreted as partially miraculous, right? Because they say this is obviously God's hand, but maybe not. It could be God's hand in a field instead, or it could be God's hand in that his friends have already betrayed him. Sandy, your thoughts?
Sorry, I'm still thinking about Abner. Chabad says that, well, actually, somewhere it said that he was Saul's cousin, and that when Saul was killed,
Yeah.
he put his son on the throne, and then because he realized that wasn't going to last, he negotiated with David, and I guess that relates to why Yoav killed him, but it says that David made them mourn Abner. So what is with all this complicated transition of power? Like, why are there so many? Because Saul's on the throne, he wants Jonathan to go on the throne, but then if Jonathan doesn't go on the throne, this guy's his cousin and wants his son to go on the throne. And God said that David's going to go on the throne, and it just feels very complicated.
Yeah. It does a bit of this. Is if the first time through the text, it's very difficult to keep all the Game of Thrones politics in line because you do Joab, and Abner are the like commanders of the armies, and the guy who's on the right side is actually horrible, and the guy who's on the enemy side is actually admirable. Like he's a good dude, I think, Abner. But he's on the wrong side.
I would like at this point concede that the cave was a cave for the sake of the peace in the house. But I'm putting out a new proposition that King Saul was getting deaf. He would not hear a whisper, but if you came out and shouted at him, he would still hear it. He was getting old and getting deaf.
That's also very, that would connect it with Eli. Yeah.
Which will explain
Eli
some
at the
of his
beginning
bad
of the book. Sorry, go ahead.
Explain some of his bad moods.
Explains why he always missed David when he threw the spear. He's really bad at them.
Yeah. Well, and I think Yanni brings up, that McMo brings up a very good point. Maybe just concentrating too hard on the poop.
Yeah.
This is what happens. Yeah. Washing his legs, as it were. Okay. Well, this was fun. I think that's a good place for us to end. Yeah. Again, the king on the run, acting more righteous, and so the one who is in power, it becomes more and more. It becomes grosser. He becomes even the stories, right? Like we get a story of him being attacked while on the toilet. Part of the function is to bring the king down.
Yeah, they never had these problems when they had judges, did they?
Well, they did, but it was the evil king that dies while pooping. It's the bad guy that dies while pooping or while sleeping or what, because you have other stories where the one guy is taking a nap, remember, and Yael drives the tent peg through him, right? These situations where it's a bad time, it's people dying and while pooping and while sleeping. I think you mean Yon God scatological, not eschatological.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, so good. So good. The jokes aren't going to get any better than that, folks. They're not going to get any better than that. So I say we just cut the stream there. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining. And we'll be back next week. So talk to y'all later.
Okay, yeah. Thank you.
Bye-bye.